I gotta tell you, knowing that Dragon's Dogma 2 was around the corner got me pretty excited. I really enjoyed the first one despite its jankiness, and I figured I was ready to jump in to the sequel, expecting it to be better in almost every way. And, well, that's not exactly how it turned out. Alright, looks like our coffee is going. We're just about ready to pour a cup and sit down to play. You know what got me excited recently? Double D2, that is Dragon's Dogma 2. What'd you think I was talking about? I'm Fox with RealMarcFoxx, and this is your stronghold for rational, reasonable, real gamers. Let's roll the intro.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Dragon's Dogma 2 was much anticipated, and I, for one, was very excited. I actually purchased the game right before it released, thinking I could preload it. But I couldn't. In fact, there appeared to be absolutely no PC preload, which was very disappointing, but not a huge deal. Having played 23 hours into the game so far, and having 69 hours on the Steam version of the original and more on the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, I can tell you that Dragon's Dogma 2 is not the game the reviewers have been telling you it is. This is not a top-notch Game of the Year contender. In fact, I believe this may be, despite being a decent game in many ways, this may be the FOTY, the FOTY, not the GOTY, the Game of the Year, but the FOTY, the flop of the year, because of how hotly anticipated it was and because of how hard it flopped when it hit. The game has only marginal improvements to the original, feeling remarkably similar and looking remarkably similar. In fact, if you take screenshots of the two games, you might even confuse one for the other. So after 12 years, how is it that this game looks and feels so similar to the original? 12 years later. And what has Capcom learned? Well, unfortunately, not much. They've learned to be even shittier than they were the first time around. Because what do we have in this game? Well, let me tell you, one of the biggest points of drama, obviously, are the microtransactions, which people refer to as MTX on Twitter. Of course, there's always the argument of just ignore them. They don't affect you if you ignore them, but it brings into question, how was the design of the game modified or changed in order to create a market for the microtransactions? Because we've been told that fast travel is not more easily accessible because the developers of the game want us to experience the feeling of traveling. But then Capcom wants us to experience the feeling of buying the items as microtransactions with real money to make fast travel more accessible. So, if the developers of the game made fast travel more accessible, then there wouldn't be a market to sell you the fast travel items as microtransactions. So now we have to wonder, nobody can say for sure how much of the game is being crafted or designed around the idea of creating a need for microtransactions. Today's drink of choice is hot black coffee. This is a Honduran crop of beans. I bought them as raw green coffee beans, roasted them myself, ground them fresh this morning, and brewed them in a percolator. Thanks to Ryan. Thank you, Ryan, for the suggestion of a percolator. Delicious. Oh, yeah. So people ask me, Fox, why don't you put milk or cream in your coffee? I will occasionally do a cafe latte for the experience, but honestly, I believe that anything you put in the coffee only negatively impacts the experience because it covers the delicious bitterness of the coffee bean. Why? Why would you ruin this with unnecessary sweetness? And unnecessary sweetness just happens to be the nickname I have for my girl. And the even bigger issue for me, other than the microtransactions, which you can ignore, is something you cannot ignore, and that is the absolute performance of this game. Now, people have said it's actually not bad performance outside of the cities, but inside the cities, it's terrible. Well, that's true. Inside the cities, it is terrible, but outside the cities, it's not that great either. Yes, you can get 60 plus on a good gaming machine, but if you don't have a very powerful machine, you're barely going to hit 60 consistently, even wandering around in the forests, in the wild. But if you get into town, oh, it doesn't matter. Your 4090, your highest grade AMD CPU, your best Intel processor isn't going to save you here. You're dropping into the 40s, possibly the 30s. You're getting close to console territory here. That's right, my PC gamer friends. You're getting close to hitting that low standard of 30 FPS on the consoles. So I want you to go compare The Witcher on PC. Not The Witcher 3, the original The Witcher on PC. Go back, play that, or watch a video on YouTube of it. Then watch a video or play The Witcher 2 and see the massive difference in graphics, gameplay, and the feel of the game. It went from a very janky, limited, odd game that didn't have the best graphics. For the time they were okay, but nowadays you look back at that and it looks pretty But you look at The Witcher 2, and that game still looks amazing. And look what year it came out, The Witcher 2. It looks amazing still today, and it plays amazing still today. But in 2012, when Dragon's Dogma came out, even the Dark Arisen version, we can go to Dark Arisen, that game felt janky, there were some oddities to it, and everyone chalked it up to Capcom not being familiar with the process of making an open-world RPG. Well, we're 12 years later in the second game, the sequel, and it still feels janky, and the controls just aren't quite there. You don't have a basic dodge function, and you can't lock on. There's no lock on. Why? In 2024, in the sequel to a game, one of the most hotly anticipated sequels, are we still wildly swatting at the air because we can't properly aim our attacks? Why does it still feel like the jank has not been removed? Why does it feel like this should have been an expansion? You know what? This smells like should have been an expansion. This could literally have been a massive expansion to Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, and people would not have batted an eye. And there are quite a few other issues, but let me complain about something relatively minor. When you start the game up, you see a big Dragon's Dogma logo. Not as exciting as the first game, where you get to see the image of a dragon in the background and fire burning. Looks really cool. And in the original Dragon's Dogma, pre-Dark Arisen, there was this really out of place but awesome song. Go back and listen to it. Dragon's Dogma theme song. Really awesome. But what do we have in Dragon's Dogma 2? We have Dragon's Dogma logo in just a scene from the town of just people wandering around in town. It's boring. The logo's cool, but they forgot something. I'm looking at this logo, I'm thinking, something's missing. What's missing from this logo? Dragon's Dogma, something's missing. Oh, that's right, the number 2. The number 2 is missing. You know why the number 2 is missing? Because in many ways, this game is a number 2, a big number 2. Oh, and let's talk about the camera. The camera can be just absolute shit at times. I can't tell you how often I have to manually move the camera because I can't see my character or get stuck somewhere. This camera needed a lot of work. This camera was tolerable in 2012, but in 2024, current year, unacceptable. And what else do we have in the game? Let me tell you something. The graphics are not the most amazing thing, but the spell effects are so cool. They're so cool, they completely block my view during combat, so I can't see what's happening, so I can't effectively block or dodge, even though there is no dodge unless you're a thief. I can't effectively block or try to avoid attacks, or even hit the enemy properly, because I cannot see past or through or around this massive burst of fire and lightning everywhere, completely obscuring my view. I get it. Those are some really cool effects, and maybe in a turn-based RPG like Final Fantasy VII, it would make sense because you don't have to manually aim. But in a game where you don't even have lock-on, where you're supposed to be able to do parries and dodges depending on your character, or block depending on your class, vocation, you need to be able to see, and these magic effects block your view. Not cool. Problem. We've talked about the limited fast travel, but one of the big issues with this game is the lack of convenience features we've come to know and expect from games like this. Now, many people say they like that. People have told me on Twitter, when I've complained on Twitter, I've cried on Twitter, and they say,
somebody hasn't played the original game.
Oh, really? I have 69 hours in the Steam version, more on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. That's right, I owned it on all 3 platforms. That's how much I enjoyed the original. I tolerated the jank because they were inexperienced. I tolerated the janky, weird controls where you're often swatting at air and missing because Capcom wasn't used to making a game like this. It was their first foray. Practice. And I thought, what a great game. What a great attempt. A first attempt at an open world RPG. Good job, Capcom. Then Dragon's Dogma 2 came around, and I thought, here we go. Refined, jankiness gone. We're gonna have a lock-on, maybe a basic dodge function, some at least somewhat convenient fast travel, ox carts maybe. And we did get the ox carts, I'll give you that. But no, what do we have in Dragon's Dogma 2? Essentially the exact same controls, the exact same feeling. Like I said, it looks so similar, you might confuse the screenshots one for the other, particularly if you're playing on PC. Compare the PC screenshots together. What is going on with the character creator? Why is it that all but one of the starting characters are pretty much outright ugly? They're all so ugly. So many of them are fat and awkward looking and just disgusting. Like, why are we doing this? Do we all want to play as gross characters? I'm sure you've all seen the character one guy created that made him look like he was hanging out at the harbor, like he'd been sleeping with the fishes for a few days and his body was bloating up with the gases of the bacteria. Have you ever seen this before? I've seen this many times. I have seen many bodies where they bloated up and they've turned sort of black in this disgusting color, you know, and you can't even tell what race the person was in life because in death they're all black, okay? So, well, there's one way we all come back around. The skin turns black, it bloats outward. I thought one guy was an obese black male, but then I discovered through investigation this guy was a thin white dude. Let me tell you something. If you've never seen a bloated corpse, it's disgusting. It smells kind of gross too. But what's interesting is that cat barf really just puts me off. But a dead body and the smell of the bacteria and the bloatedness of the body, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people. I don't know why, I can tolerate it. But I can only think there's some sort of DEI ESG influence here. Granted, you can create your own characters here, but you can't tell me there's no DEI ESG influence here. And exploring is fun, and that's true. It is really fun to explore in this game. Just wander around, there's stuff to find. So many treasure chests. I love going up to a treasure chest and be like, wow, look at that. The pawn is like,
Arisen, there's a treasure chest, up ahead, up high. Mayhaps we can find it. Let us seek a way to the treasure chest. I am sure there is great bounty to be had.
And so we go to the treasure chest and I opened it, and what do I discover? It's a horsebud. It's an herb. It's a fish. I'm not joking. I opened the treasure chest and it has a fish in it. Not a magical fish. Not some super golden, high-value fish, just a fish. So many treasure chests in this game have junk items. Why? Why are we putting junk in a treasure chest? Put something of value in these treasure chests. Gold. Gold's an easy one. Put gold in it. Every treasure chest should have something of some value. Don't just put an herb or a fish in the treasure chest. Treasure... It's a potato! Look, guys, I've got a potato!
I found a potato in the treasure chest!
What? What could be better than that?
2 potatoes?
I know. I'm doing a lot of hating on this game, but big picture is I would not have put over 23 hours into it if I wasn't having some fun. No matter how hot a game is in the current gaming landscape, I'm not putting 20 plus hours in it just to talk about it on a video, if I'm not also enjoying it. So if I'm enjoying Dragon's Dogma, why am I criticizing it so much? Because I want to see this series go in a better direction. We deserved better than an incremental, small modification of the original formula that could have easily just been an expansion. The first Dragon's Dogma felt like a game from the previous decade in terms of its gameplay design, and in some ways that made it all the more charming, but it was janky, so we expected Dragon's Dogma 2 to be so much better, and it's only a little bit better. I'm sorry, but Dragon's Dogma 2, particularly with all these problems and the microtransactions, is not a $70 game. I cannot recommend you pay $70 for this game and have to deal with that microtransaction bullshit. There are some genuinely fun fights in this game, climbing on top of these big monsters and stabbing them in the neck or the face or the eyeball and watching them fall and attacking them, but at the same time, the game has to ruin that with constantly taking control away from you. There's stuff putting you to sleep, there's stuff knocking you out, there's all sorts of debilitations. You're constantly running out of stamina and just going,
oh, I can't move, oh.
The game constantly rips control from you and tells you,
No.
You cannot control your character for X number of seconds until something changes. This was a complaint with the original. And on top of that, you are constantly getting overburdened with items, and it's hard to know what the value of the items are, so you don't know what to get rid of or what to hang on to. And having said all that, let me give you some of my performance tips. You can try these and see how they work for you. I think this is about the best you can do for now, but give them a shot. Go into the options menu. This is for my PC playing fans out there. And turn on either DLSS or FSR, depending on whether you have NVIDIA or AMD graphics card. Make sure that the in-game dynamic resolution is off. We only want one version of dynamic resolution. If you have DLSS on, you can play around and try quality, balanced performance. Do not go with ultra performance because that looks like shit. Trust me on that one. Limit your FPS to either 60 or 120, depending on how powerful your gaming machine is. Although it kind of sucks to have to limit it, it may. Limiting your frame rate may. I did not say will. Did anyone hear me say will? Did I say anybody here will? No. It may help make the game feel smoother, so give it a shot. If you're hovering closer to 60 most of the time, 60 frame rate, lock, try it out. If you're getting well above 60 all the way up into the hundreds, try the 120. Go to the shadows, set them to mid or low. They don't look that great, but trust me, shadows hit your performance like a truck. Turn on the shadows cache. I think that does help. Go into the task manager, Control-Alt-Delete task manager. Go to the Dragon's Dogma 2 executable file, right-click that, and set the priority to high. This should actually help a little bit. I got about 5 to 7 extra framies out of those town settings, and hey, that makes a big difference. And of course, you want to turn ray tracing off. Can't forget that one. I almost forgot to tell you that. Yeah, ray tracing, always turn that crap off. It is never worth the hit to your performance to turn on ray tracing. So you can see them right here. Check my settings. Feel free to copy them, or heck, feel free to criticize the hell out of them and tell me how wrong I am, and I don't even know what PC gaming means anymore. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I'm still a small-time YouTuber, so it means so much to me when you hit that subscribe button, notification bell icon, and the like, and leave a comment below. And I'd like to say thank you to Super Real Gamers, I don't need that, Super Real Gamers Drunken Dwarf, GOTCXX and Vulpus Persona, and Real Gamer Fornelius Noland. He has his own YouTube channel, check it out. I have a book, a novel of my own I've released called New Tokyo. It's a cyberpunk light novel meant to be somewhat realistic, set in a futuristic Japan in a city above a city in the year 2117. Definitely check it out. It's in paperback, Kindle, or Kindle Unlimited formats. I make the most off the Kindle version, so if you want more money to come to me, get the Kindle. And all this talk about Dragon's Dogma 2, and you know what it makes me want to play? Another game that has magic in it, Magician on the NES. This, in many ways, was the original Dragon's Dogma. What? Because it's complicated, it's awkward, it has jank, it has magic, you die a lot, it's not easy. Magician on the NES. This is what we need a sequel to. Magician 2. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, for Fox's sake, stay real, keep playing, and never forget, yesterday's tomorrow is today's today.